Hi, I'm Rachel, a resource expert and career coach for museum educators who are stretched thin but long to fall in love with their world-changing work. After over 15 years with my own hands in the glitter, I know how it feels when your board thinks your work is childish because you work with children. I know how hard it is to lead a tour on a difficult subject, and I know the frustration of waiting on a school bus that is 20 minutes late. Or worse, 10 minutes early. As I'm heading towards the second half of my career, I find myself with a passion to help my fellow educators reverse the chronic state of being overworked and underappreciated so that they can reclaim their creativity and emotional energy. Join me and my museum buddies as we share our best tips, tricks, and techniques for modern museum education. Hello, and welcome back to the 12 Days of Christmas Museum Education Edition, my holiday gift to the museum educator community. Over the last several days, I've been releasing short podcast episodes on a variety of topics, stuffed with actionable tips and grounded in current research to help you level up your museum education programs. We are coming close to the end of this series, and I hope you have found it inspiring as you put 2024 to bed and get ready for a big year in 2025. Today, we're going to be looking at how you can improve your volunteer recognition program in the upcoming year. Now, we all know that volunteers are the backbone of many museum programs. They can help deliver tours, assist with events, and they contribute to everything that makes a museum come to life. And so many museums rely exclusively or significantly on their volunteer corps. But in 2025, I think it's time to shake things up. If you have not updated your volunteer recognition program in a couple of years, now is the time. It's time to think about how we can inspire, reward, and retain our volunteers in a way that truly makes a difference for you, but also for them. So in this episode, I'm going to share some new ideas for revitalizing a volunteer program, focusing on how to create a culture of engagement and recognition that fosters loyalty and long-term impact. So if you're looking to start a volunteer program in 2025, or if you feel like yours is kind of lackluster and you want to breathe some fresh life into it, or if you just want to see if what you're doing now is the best fit for the future, then this is a great episode for you. So historically, volunteer programs have focused on a transactional model where you say, you give us your time and we'll give you benefits like a discount or, a certificate. But increasingly, volunteers are looking for more than just basic rewards. They're searching for a deeper sense of purpose, community, and personal growth. There are so many different ways for people to spend their time, and volunteers want to feel like they are a part of something bigger. They want to contribute to an institution that aligns with their values, or an institution that is important to their community, or an institution that they have fond memories of visiting with their children or when they were a child. They want to contribute to an institution in a way that helps them contribute to society. And this means it's no longer enough to rely on the old way of just saying thank you or see you next time. You really need to inspire your volunteers beyond those basic rewards. So, how do we inspire volunteers in 2025? The first step, I think, is to connect their work to a bigger mission. If your museum is focusing on issues like sustainability or diversity or social justice, consider aligning your volunteer roles with those themes to show volunteers that their efforts are part of a larger movement, whether it's through educational programming or conservation efforts or outreach to underserved communities. Make sure that they feel connected to those big things that your museum is doing. And if you really want to take this to the next level, consider this. What if you took the time to really get to know your volunteers and their passions? What if you tailored their responsibilities to match their individual skills, their interests, and their personal goals? Volunteers want to feel like they're really contributing something meaningful, not just completing a task. So how can you align the work that they do with their values as well as with the values of your museum as a whole? Okay, so secondly, let's talk about recognition and rewards. A volunteer's main motivation isn't usually the thing that they get in return for their time, but recognition is crucial. It's very important to move beyond a really bland volunteer appreciation event that happens maybe once a year. Instead, you want to make recognition an ongoing part of your volunteer's experience. So first of all, consider personalized appreciation. Take the time to write a thank you note or send a personalized message, a text message, or maybe call people on the actual telephone and highlight specific ways that they have contributed to your mission by their actions. Think beyond just thanking them for the task they did, but specifically call out the way in which they have contributed to your site's mission and share with them the impact of their work. Another thing you might think about is if there is a place inside your museum where you could recognize them with like a wall of fame or something along those lines. Make an effort to regularly highlight not just the tasks that they do, but the value of the work that they do, the value to your museum and to the community at large. Moreover, it's really important to recognize long-term volunteers. You want to encourage loyalty, not just to your museum or to your institution, but also loyalty to the volunteer program itself. So think about ways that you can reward and recognize significant investment of a volunteer's time at your institution. Make sure that you're calling out volunteer anniversaries with tangible rewards that feel personal and meaningful. And make sure that you tie that acknowledgement back to the value of the work that they are providing to your institution. Next, never let a milestone pass you by. Make sure that you're recognizing birthdays and important events in the lives of your volunteers. When you're invested in your volunteers' lives, when you know, for example, when their birthday is or their wedding anniversary, or you can acknowledge something exciting that's happening for them, in the same way that you would for a coworker, that's going to make your volunteers feel so much more invested in your site and invested in the work that you are doing. And that in turn will encourage long-term loyalty. Now, my most favorite idea for volunteer recognition is skill building opportunities. Volunteers love opportunities to grow. It's one of the main reasons why people volunteer at museums. They want an opportunity for personal growth. So consider offering workshops and behind-the-scenes tours and professional development training for your volunteers. Give your volunteers the tools that they need to build their own resumes or to build out their own personal experience. Show them that you value them beyond the time that they spend volunteering with you. And that's how you move beyond the transactional model. Another way that you can do this without having to develop a whole new series of programs is to partner with another institution and do a volunteer reward swap. So, for example, if you are a historic house museum and you know how to do a workshop on historic wreath making, for example, could you offer that reward as a workshop to your local art museum volunteers? And could they offer, say, a printmaking workshop for your volunteers? The thing about museum volunteers is that they're often multi-passionate people, so you can make your volunteers very happy by skill swapping with your fellow museum colleagues, and that is truly a win-win for everybody. Remember that the goal is to make your volunteers feel seen and appreciated all year long, not just when they hit a certain milestone, and not just at a once-a-year arbitrary volunteer appreciation dinner. Okay. Lastly, how do you retain those volunteers? Volunteers who feel inspired and appreciated are much more likely to stay and continue coming back to your site, giving you their time, giving you their effort. And one way to keep your volunteers coming back is by cultivating a sense of community. It's not just a place for them to do something, it's a place where they can belong. And that is a real key distinction that will help you move your volunteer program from that transactional model where they're simply giving time and you give them a certificate, to a program where they feel truly invested. Consider ways to create space for your volunteers where they can get to know each other, share ideas amongst themselves, and build lasting friendships inside the volunteer program. This can look like physical space in your museum. It might look like a virtual space. But the key thing to remember when you're planning this is that you want to keep your volunteers in your mind. What is it that they actually want? Do they want in-person gatherings, or would they rather have an online social media platform? The key here is to create the opportunities where your volunteers want to be. Otherwise, you're wasting their time and yours. So make sure you're planning volunteer social gatherings and volunteer rewards with your volunteers. Involve them in the process. Remember, they're stakeholders in this program, so include them in the actual planning of the volunteer program, the reward, and the retention efforts. And consider ways that you can create opportunities for the volunteers to offer feedback on their own experiences. So give them a voice in how the program evolves and show them that their ideas are taken seriously. So as we head into the new year, my challenge for you is to take a fresh look at your volunteer program. How can you create a culture of inspiration, recognition, and connection to make your volunteers feel like they're really a part of something that is changing lives in your museum and in your community? All right, that is it for today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will be back again tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us. If this episode has been helpful to you or interesting, please take a minute to like, subscribe, and leave a review, which will help other museum educators find this resource. As always, if you would like to work with me more directly, have any questions, or would like to be a guest on the podcast, you can find links to all that and more on my website, modernmuseumeducation.com. I'll see you back here next time, and in the meantime, please remember that your work is not childish just because you work with children.